everybody, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Zee Garcia.
I'm Camilla.
And today we're taking a look at a new game that's just come out called Finspan. Not particularly new. It is a sequel to both Wingspan and Wormspan, part of a trilogy, says the Stonemaier Games. This one's about fish, and it's called Finspan because, well, whatever.
Because fins.
Even the cover of this, Camilla pointed out that the flying fish here, is in the same position as the bird on Wingspan.
Yep.
I get it. If you have a game that's sold 1 million copies, you want to get on that success. But we're not here really to talk about should Finspan exist, because it's a sequel, right? We're here to tell you if the game's any good or not. So we're going to go over a quick way of how to play it, and we'll be right back. Each player has a player board with some pre-printed fish on. They're all the same on each board. You also have a spot to put 2 eggs and a young fish at the beginning of the game. Players are going to start with a hand of cards. You'll have some starter fish cards and then cards from the main deck in your hand. Each of these cards are going to be various fish. Players will also have 6 divers, and on a player's turn, you're going to go around this game in 4 rounds. So you'll have 6 turns each round. You can either play a fish or dive. When you play a fish, you're simply going to place your diver up at the top of the board up here, and then you get to play a fish. And you can see there's lots of spots on the board to play fish, but you're going to have to follow the rules here. So this fish can only be played in an area where it shows the sun at the top of the board. This one also can be played in the sunny area, but only on the blue line. You'll see a blue line, so it can be played here, here, or here. When you place fish, you can put them in a regular space, or you can even put them on an occupied space, but only if they're bigger than the fish that they're going on top of. So you'll have this one plays in the sun, this one has an opportunity to be played in 2 different areas, which can be the case. And some fish even require you to play them on top of other fish. In fact, all fish have requirements to play. When you play a fish, you have a cost at the top. This one simply says, discard 2 cards from my hand. Incidentally, whenever you discard cards from your hand, they are going to go to your own discard pile. Maybe it costs a young fish, in which case that young fish can come from anywhere on the board. This one costs a card, an egg, and a fish, and then I can play it. Many cards have when played activities. This one here says, I get to put 2 young on the board. Some have game end abilities. Some have if activated abilities, and some, when you play them, will do, like I said, do something. This one here puts an egg on every fish that is a predator, which has that symbol there. Speaking of eggs, every fish can hold 1 egg. Like I said, there's some on the board already, but as you get more eggs, you can put them here. Young are not the same. Young don't need to be on top of a fish, and there can be more than 1 in a spot. And in fact, if there's ever 3 young in a spot, those young are removed, and they become a school of fish, which is going to be worth points at the end of the game. You cannot have 2 schools of fish together, but if you ever have something like this, 3 young and a school moves, then these 3 would become another school. Now, I said putting a fish out is one of the abilities you have. The other is dive. Dive, dive. When you dive, you'll put your diver at the top of one of the 3 columns. So in this column, you're going to draw cards. This says if there's a fish in this section, which there is, draw a card. You then come down to the next section. Is there a fish in that section? There is. Draw another card. Come down here. Is there a fish in this section? It's printed on the board. Draw. That's 3 cards I drew. And then down here at the bottom, this symbol says, take a card from my discard pile. I can take any card I want. If I don't have a card in my discard pile, draw another card. But then I cover this up so that bonus is gone. I can dive again, but I'm only going to get the bonuses on the side. Also, anytime you pass a fish that has if activated, so this one here says if activated, this will eat a fish that's smaller than it. So I can tuck a fish under that card. Any fish that are tucked under cards at the end of the game are worth a point. The second spot here works the same way. As you come through, this says if there's a fish here, lay an egg on any fish on the board. No fish, so I can't do it. Is there a fish here? Lay an egg? Yes. Is there a fish here? No, so I lay 1 egg. But then at the bottom of the board, I get the bonus action again if it's the first diver. And then the last column lets you hatch eggs. So you can take any egg on the board and flip it over into a young. And these spots will do that except the last 2 spots on the board here let you move fish. So you can move a young fish in a straight line to another spot on the board. And again, if you get 3 of them together, you get a school. And you can move schools too, because sometimes you need to move schools so that you can make room for other schools. Players are going to take their 6 turns in turn order. Then you're going to score for the end of the week. Here you get 1 point for every egg or young. In week 2, you get points if you have a row of fish, 2 points. 2 points for school. And at the end of the game, at the end of that round, you're going to look at all your cards that say game end. Some of them are going to give points, but some will also let you activate something at the very end. So this here says I can put a fish in the area where there is the purple in the purple row. That's why there's these purple fins here at the top. And then you'll score, getting points for eggs, young. Each school of fish is 6. Each fish that you've eaten is worth points, but also every fish themselves is worth a certain amount of points on them. Now this is the basic game. You can flip it over to side B where you'll randomly pick what the scoring bonuses will be. There's a bunch of tiles to put in that spot. And whoever has the most points is the winner, and that's how you play. As a side note, if you want to see how it's played, you can. We did a how to play just a couple days ago, and that's on our website or a live play of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, first of all, component-wise, the one I showed you is the basic game. He has upgraded components. You want the squishy eggs?
I require the squishy eggs.
See,
Otherwise, they're bubbles. So now Wingspan came with the eggs, and they were in it. You didn't have to upgrade to those, right?
But I get why they're like that in this game. Because I initially was like, I'm immediately upgrading these. And then when I saw the rule that you flip the egg over in the live, I'm like, oh, that's kind of convenient, though. Because otherwise you take it off and put a new one on. If I was playing this with new people, I think I would use these components. It's pretty easy to flip them over.
Yeah.
The usability here is nice, and I agree with that. I think it's a good way to do it. Yeah. It's one to the other.
I have a few small issues with production. These are very minor. But I wish, so they have the pre-printed 2 eggs and a live on the board.
Yes.
I can't tell you the number of times I think they're actually there. I wish they were way lighter.
Okay.
The pre-printed ones, I'm like, oh, I have an egg. Oh, that's not an egg. Because it's almost as bright as the egg.
And I think I have the opposite problem with the actual fish on there.
That was I was going to say. Same thing.
Okay,
And then the opposite
the
with
fish
those fish.
Yeah,
needs
those
to
are
be
two-
brighter.
They're 2 separate issues.
Yeah.
The egg outline that means starts with an egg here did not need to be a full picture of the real token.
Right.
It could have been a tiny dot
Yeah.
in orange. I mean, it doesn't matter whatsoever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Once it's not there, I need to know it's not there. I'm with you.
Yeah, because if you count them,
Right.
you visually real quick will count.
Bigger of an issue than that is the pre-printed ones. I'm sorry, man. They blend right in.
They gloss right
They're
over.
beautiful, though.
Yeah.
They're lovely, okay? I love that you begin with some fish on there and that you have some starting sort of engine already going. You either give me a card that sits on there and looks like every other card, or you print it on the board and it looks like every other card.
It looks like a card, yeah.
It cannot be a transparent card, okay?
I want transparent cards, Jamie, for my own version of this game.
You you look right over it, and that's by far my biggest problem actually with this game. Which I guess if you don't think it's a big deal, then there you go.
Right. I mean, you could build. I'm sorry. You could build over it pretty quickly, but then you're also giving up that activation because you're trying to build out everywhere else. So you're not really incentivized to build it over and have that card out there.
That being said, the artwork for the fish is fantastic.
Yes.
It is.
I have to be honest, coming into this, I'm biased towards this game in many ways because I would rather go to an aquarium 100 times over an apiary. I like birds, fine. I love fish.
Yeah.
And I think the variety of fish is just amazing. Like they just touch on it in this game, but they did include most of my favorite fish. But there's so many fish in the sea. I don't mean it as that comment. Ha ha ha. But I like fish, so I'm glad they're in this game. And also, this game makes it really easy to jump in and get started. When it comes to play style, you get your starting fish. So I didn't realize, talking a little bit about Wingspan, how much I don't miss the dice tower. Irony. I don't miss the dice tower in Wingspan. And that initial thing in Wingspan, you roll dice, you give people some cards, and then you say, okay, discard some cards, and that's how much food you get. And the cards you keep, then you can put out, and people have to sit there and make that decision. Here's your starting fish, here's your other fish, go. You can immediately play at least 2 fish in your hand.
Yes.
Right.
And bam, you don't have to, it's so much easier to teach people. This is by far, of the 3 games in the series, the easiest one.
Yes.
I don't think it's the easiest and the lightest weight. I think just the simplification of making the cards themselves a resource really offers a lot of flexibility to where you're not going to get caught up in AP as much because you're not like, which of these resources do I need, which it's right there in your hand, as well as that own kind of we call it kind of that self-economy that you get, because if you play a card, it's a personal discard pile, so that card's not gone forever. So you're making these difficult decisions of which cards to put in that pile, but they don't feel as long-term punishing, I guess, because you might be able to resurrect that card out.
Yeah.
So it just offers that little bit of flexibility, which is going to be helpful to people that might have gotten kind of clogged up in the AP decisions.
Now, that being said, there's a couple things that I don't necessarily have a problem with, but you need to know going into this. First of all, it is very, very multiplayer solitaire.
Sure.
They definitely put in lots of cards that are like, give stuff to other players. But that almost feels like they were like, come on, you affect each other. But I really don't care what you're doing other than looking at you. We might fight over having the most of something for some points. But for the most part, I'm working myself, and that some people are going to love that whole having your own discard pile, and then, having your own little system of cards is going to work well for people. The other thing that's a little weird is, and I'm not saying this is bad, but I don't know how I feel about it. This game scales so weirdly. So the first time I played this, I played it, I think, with Mike. We played a 2-player game, and we got out a decent amount of fish. And then I watched Zee play a 4-player game, or maybe it was a 5-player. I don't remember how many players. And you almost filled your board because you're getting that many more resources from people. The more players who play the game, the more stuff comes your way, and it just feels different.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Do you have a preference on which one you like? Or is it just different?
I think 3 seems to be the sweet spot, which
Okay.
This is the thing in Stonemaier games are often oddly scaling expeditions, Scythe. All the games have weird scaling things.
Sure.
This one feels weird. I don't know that it's necessarily bad, though. I just think people need to realize that if you play with 5-player game, you will likely fill your whole board with fish.
Wow.
Interesting.
Okay.
Because you'll get that many more resources. Yeah, so for me, my and it's hard to talk about this without talking about Wingspan, right?
Sure, of course.
Because Wingspan's such
They invite that comparison right on the box.
That's true. And Wingspan's such a genre-defining game. It's one of the most influential games in the last 10 years. Like, objectively, this is true. It's done a lot. We have to give a lot of credit to Elizabeth Hargrave for designing it. She did not design this. She developed this. The designer said that she gave lots of really good feedback on it. So I'm not trying to put down Wingspan at all. I like Wingspan a lot. I like Wormspan. I might have liked that a little better, although now that I've had a year, they're kind of about the same for me.
Okay.
I like this one the tiniest bit better than both of those. Of course, in a year, that might change. But that's mostly because I can get this to the table so much easier. The 45 minutes to 60 minutes here is a little bit of a lie. It's closer to 90, especially 45 to 60 for 2 players, sure. 3 or 4 players, you're playing 90 minutes. Anyway, that's not a big deal. But it's still easy to teach, easy to bring out there, and I love fish. So my current ratings for Wingspan and Wormspan are an 8. This is kind of right there, too. I really like this. I like a lot of things about this. This is an 8 for me.
This is my favorite of the 3, Wormspan and Wingspan. I'm good with both of them, but this one is an 8.5 for me. I think the theme helps a lot. I think it doesn't feel as clunky as some of the others. We talked about it being lighter. I mean, Mike was, made a point for it being lighter. I don't know if it's necessarily lighter. I just feel like it's less clunky and it's more intuitive. And so I grasp it a lot quicker and can just get into playing. There's very little questions you have once you have 1 or 2 turns. You're like, I'm good. Oh, what's this symbol mean? That's it. So I think the theme carries it. I think it's very much more intuitive. I really like these schools of fish having to move around, the fish coming together to make the schools. I think that's a really interesting mechanism as well. So yeah, of the 3, this is by far my favorite, and I went into it very hesitant because I am so lukewarm on the other 2.
Right, you don't really like them.
Exactly. I find them perfectly fine, and this one's like, no, this game here finally makes me go like, oh, I could see this being as big as Wingspan. If this is Wingspan, I'd be like, I see why it made such a big splash. Haha. So I think that's the first time I'm kind of like on board with a Wingspan game.
Okay.
And so yeah, for me it's 8.5.
Yeah, it's more telling that there's a big gap in between yours as opposed to like Tom's or my own. Because for me, it would be definitely Wormspan is my least favorite of the three, but then Wingspan, and then this game. So it's also my favorite. I'm giving this one a 9. I think it is. It's a very well put together game. You're talking about, we keep saying a lot of these words, you know. It ultimately kind of comes down to, for me, clarity of purpose. This is a game in which you can drop a couple of fish out there. First 2 turns, boom, boom. It's simple because it has fewer moving parts, not because you're not engaged, not because there aren't things to do. It just has, instead of 7 currencies, you've got 3 cards, fish, and eggs, right? I mean, so you're playing with those fewer things. It still has all the thematic implications that you want. The big fish eat the little fish. Eggs become fish. They group up, they become schools. They start blocking each other. That's wonderful implementation of theme. Divers going down instead of side to side, right, like the other ones. Wonderful implementation of theme. And on top of that, it's easy to teach and fairly quick. The variety of fish is tremendous. That's the other thing here. Wingspan there's not only fewer birds, but Wingspan was just American birds.
Right.
This is like, the variety is insane. It feels so good to just draw to see what you get. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I very much enjoy this one. It is the flaws that you could personally pick out, solitaire, you don't care for fish, that sort of thing, is going to be left up to the individual. As far as the game, I think it's wonderful.
Hey, you said it. I'm thinking they're all ocean fish. I don't think there's any freshwater fish in here. There might be, but I'm
not yet.
Yeah, I guess you're right. But there's
ocean.
Such a good variety in there. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, for me it gets a 9. I think it's wonderful.
All right, folks. Well, there you go. It's Finspan. We'll see how these land up. Either way, for me, I could have all 3 games in my collection. I think they're different enough. Although maybe someday I'll do a comparison between them. But I want to see how this one kind of lands in a few months or so. But for right now, we all really enjoy it.
Yep.
So that's Finspan. I'm Tom.
I'm Zee.
I'm Camilla.
We'll see you in the trenches of the ocean. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you like this review or whatever you just watched, wasn't it amazing? Check out our channel, Dice Tower. We have all kinds of things. We review games, we do top 10s, we play games live. It's all about board games, but especially the people who play them. Check out Dice Tower YouTube channel.